Man, so much to talk to you about, so many good things, and a moment of transparency. So this year was a weird year. 2021, I thought 2020 was bad, but I think, in talking with so many of you last year, and when we did this last year, I think we all had this kind of like bull by the horns mentality of 2020. It's like, oh no, we're not going to get beat up by 2020. It was less than ideal, and it pushed us to new limits, and we found the silver linings, and we took this, but by gum, we were on that bull. We were going to ride that bull. We were not getting off. We were going to ride that bull into the ground. And 2021 started out with all this promise of, we get to get off this bull soon. We get to get off this bull, and we get to get our kids back and our programs back. And yeah, we know there'll be a new normal, whatever new normal is, but we'd be able to navigate that together. So there was all this hope. And we here at APH were excited. The planning team, we began planning for annual meeting back in April and May of last year, and the wheels were going. I was being very bold to all of you, saying, we're doing it. We'll meet you in there. Drinks are on me, downtown on 4th Street. Let's go. Let's have fun. Can't wait to see everybody. This will be our best ever. And then Delta hit and reality set in, and as many states experienced, Kentucky experienced that too, that rise in red, and inevitable. So we had to do the only prudent thing, and that was take care of ourselves and take care of all of you and go virtual. Well, that threw many of us into a real depressive funk. We knew we were losing conferences. We could live with that, but we were going to lose time with you. And that was the hard thing, because as much as you like coming to APH, we need you, I would say, even more. We need you here in person. We need to see you, spend time with you, and hang out with you. And we love to host you. We'd love to hear from you. And we feed off that energy for the remainder of the year. So to lose that really threw many of us, myself included, into somewhat of a level of depression. And the other day I was getting ready for this talk, and as of Sunday, I had nothing. I had facts and figures and stats, because our staff are amazing at providing us numbers, and our story is so rich and so deep. Today, I can only give you a snapshot, but were we to go through all of it, it's more than 12 pages of single space, 12-point font, of information, of data, and we don't have time for that, nor would I subject you to that. But as of Sunday, I had all this data, but I had no theme, and I just wasn't feeling it. So Monday I got in and I emailed, I took a handful of friends and colleagues, and I said, tell me about your year. What are you learning? What's happening? What are you experiencing? What nuggets can you speak to me? What wisdom can you offer up? And you were so gracious. And those things started flying in on Monday. A lot of them came in on Tuesday, and by Tuesday night, I had almost 80% of everything done. But I also realized I had 2 talks. So I had to take the majority of that talk and put that off for another time. And during the closing session next week, we'll go through a real brief talk on my learnings from your learnings and what that means for us going forward in the future. But today I want to focus on APH and talk a little bit about that. So we're ready to go to the platform. And I don't know, Leanne, am I running my own screen here? I think I asked for that.
You can.
Well, can, or if you got it, you can do it. I mean, I always think it's great. It's like, let me drive. I'll do great. And then I forget to put on the turn signal, and we end up in a ditch. So if you've got it.
I will work on queuing it up. So just hang a second.
We'll get that going. But inspired this year by the design that our team came up with. Learning your way means a lot of things to a lot of people, but the design itself looks like a road of possibility. I don't know why I see that. I'm thinking, oh, that's a dotted line down the middle of the road. So that is fantastic. So that kind of inspired this talk and this thought. So we're getting up there on the screen share. It's coming. There it is. The road ahead, state of the company 2021. I raised my family. They're now spread to the corners of the universe, it seems like. But my wife and I raised our boys. We lived in Oregon and Washington for all our years. And the beautiful thing about that is when you live on the West Coast, especially up in the Northwest, you live in this little slice of heaven. I know everybody has their own version of heaven, but ours was beach hour and a half away, in the mountains an hour away, and clear running streams with different types of fishing opportunities and lots of recreation. And to me, that's my heaven. So you had all that. So of course, when it was on vacation, what do you do for vacation? When you already live in the rurals, or you live in the an area where all those things are readily accessible, you do the only sane thing, and that is you take off to the most crowded city you can find on the universe to worship a mouse. So we did that every year. We made our pilgrimage to Disneyland every year to worship the mouse. And it was because I was the only breadwinner in the family at that time. My wife was not working, and I was a teacher. We had to drive 16.5-hour drive, and we would load up the minivan, and we would make that drive straight shot and try. And this is before computers, so trying to keep kids entertained for 16 hours was a great deal. But there's so much about that drive, and the biggest part for those who have made that drive down Interstate 5. Interstate 5, for those of you who don't know, starts up in Canada, goes all the way to the border of Mexico. And starting up in Canada, working down through Seattle's pretty, but it's traffic's a mess. You go through the rurals of Washington, you hit Portland, again, traffic's a mess, but you get beyond that. And then you hit Southern Oregon, and you hit Mount Shasta, and you come into Redding, and it's just all glorious. And then you leave Redding, and it's like God threw a curse on California, or some ultimate being did, and said, from here on out, it will be boring. It will be flat. It will be boring. It will be brown. You will see lots of brown. You will see 50 shades of brown. Everything green is we're growing some product you don't need, or it's bad for the environment. So it's, and I won't get into that, but it's just brown. And that was the view of 2020. You're headed somewhere, but it is brown. It is flat, and it is brown. And the whole time you're saying, how long can this go on? And in the middle of that, though, in the middle of the brown, there are some learnings. And so on one side, I have that picture, and it's actually a stretch of northern Merced County as we're headed south. And it is there, but we're getting close, according to the road sign, Los Baños, which I think in Spanish means the bathroom. I don't know. I could be wrong, but it would make sense, because that felt like, this is as good a spot as any to relieve yourself. Go out there, the bathroom. All right, so that's one picture. The other picture is this giant olive. And this giant olive has this giant toothpick going through the center of it. This is actually in Corning, California, part of this brown stretch. This is the olive pit. So despite how brown and how barren and how you're thinking there's nothing good in this area, you do have attractions like the olive pit. So there were some learnings in 2020, maybe the learnings we did not want, but they were nice distractions from this long stretch of brown. So that was 2020. We got through 2020. Next slide, we'll jump into this. How did another look, the view of 2021. This is another section on the left there. You see a picture of an area called the Grapevine, still on Interstate 5. The Grapevine is, you come out of the San Fernando Valley. It's flat, and all of a sudden you hit the 6% increase. In the summer, this is a graveyard for trucks and cars, because cars have been driving through the desert. And let's not kid ourselves, San Fernando Valley, except where they irrigate, is actually a desert. So cars are running in high heat, and they hit this mountain pass and they die. Radiators blow up, car engines blow out, and so both sides are lined with broken down cars. In the wintertime, that's what is a picture of here, it has frequent snowstorms. They just pop out of nowhere. They get that west wind coming in off the coast, blows all this moisture in, it'll drop 2 feet of snow, everything shuts down. People get trapped there for 24 hours. In the spring, when the rains come, you get mudslides. So the Grapevine, beautiful. It's beautiful to look at. And it's a promise of something better. You left the brown, there's something better ahead, but it's there's dangers and you don't know how to navigate that. All you know is we got to keep going and we got to respect what's coming. We don't know what's coming. And as you get to the other side of that, you drop into the town of Castaic and you come down into Santa Clarita, and then you see a very familiar sight for those who've traveled I-5, and that is you see Six Flags Magic Mountain off to the right. You see all these roller coasters, and that's what we have there as a picture. And I called that almost, but not quite, because it's like there's hope. There's some hope here. There's some entertainment. I've just driven my family 14 of the 16 hours, and if the car were to break down today, we could make a go of this, but that's not where we're headed. So we're almost, but not quite, but there's some hope. So that was 2021 in a nutshell. So what did we learn? What were our numbers? And we use numbers all the time. I told our staff this last week. I apologize for numbers because it's so hard to tell our story, the work we do with numbers. Numbers ring hollow, although numbers are how at a government level we are measured and how we kind of measure ourselves. So I always tell people, remember the story behind the numbers. But today I'm here to tell you about where we are according to the numbers, how we got there, okay? So let's look at the numbers. And this is kind of our story of 2021 before we get where we're going. So we'll go to the next slide. All right, our federal budget this year. In 2021, we received $34.431 million, which was an increase. 31 of that went to the appropriations for the operations at APH, and 3 million went to our regional partnership with AIDB, which also funds our regional specialists and the work that we are doing there, which is an ever-growing part of APH, and we're excited about that. So you can see from 2017 to 2021, we have had a steady growth, almost $10 million in 5 years, which is nice. Not as much as we want, but it's still a good jump from year to year to year. So we're happy about that. We'll jump to the next slide here. Our operations. So financially, our total sales for this year, and this represents both quota and non-quota, but we're at $32.7 million, which was up 2.1 from last year. Quota sales almost it was $24.4 million. That's up $1.5 million over last year. Non-quota sales were up again, 8.2 million. So all of those are healthy numbers. That's the way I have those arrows pointing up because that's always healthy. Our development team knocked it out of the park again this year, raising $1.35 million. Did a fantastic job. We had strong international sales there. Now, international sales aren't bringing in millions of dollars yet. International sales, though, we had a 3% growth goal, and we hit that 3% growth goal. So we brought in nearly $600,000 on international sales. The other thing is we have a lot of sales that go over in our technology that we don't actually sell. So a lot of technology products that we do with Humanware. Humanware actually is our distributing arm for those products. So we don't count those as sales, but we had a lot of growth, and at one time this year, it's one of the Mantis was its biggest, the place where it was selling the best was in Eastern Europe, of all places. So we've done some great work, and we appreciate those partners that help us get good products out because everybody deserves good products. Production had a record year this year. Production did an amazing job, not only with getting the right inventory in stock, but also reducing back orders. 3 years ago, I hung a goal on them, which at that time seemed like it was a moonshot, and that was get back orders. Now, back orders are anytime you place an order and it's not in stock, it goes on back order. And our goal was never to have more than $100,000 of product in back order. So this year, in a COVID year, impacted by supply chain, where we had to switch out on bills of material every day because we could no longer get this Velcro or that gray flannel. Production this year achieved that goal. And in fact, we had 2 months, 1 month where they had back orders of $2,000, which is unheard of. And when you've got that was just fantastic job by the production team and the planning team to make that happen. So excellent job for them. So good year, great year actually for operations. Operations, of course, leads what's operations, annual quota count. I wanted to spend a time on this. First of all, heartfelt thank you from Cindy and her team. Heartfelt thank you from me. I couldn't imagine a tougher year than last year trying to get quota counts in. And as a result, our quota count was down last year, 55,711. That's down 1,155 from the previous year. And I'm blaming that all on COVID. I really am. And I put up here a graph, a bar graph that shows what our numbers were from 2017 to 2021. In 2017, we had almost 64,000 students on quota. And we see this huge drop in 2018. And you remember what happened that year? That was the year we were told that we had to obtain parent permissions for students to receive quota. And you also remember that under the previous presidential administration, at that time, there was a lot of turmoil in our country as there was a lot of pressure being put on undocumented migrants in our country as well. So there's some evidence that would suggest that a result of that, we had a lot of parents who were out of fear, didn't register students. We had a lot of parents who didn't quite understand why they needed to register students. So there was a lot of mitigating factors there in 2018. 2019, we see a growth of about 1%. 2020, we see a growth of about 1%. In 2021, we see a decrease. Now, if we spread this out over 20 years, we went back to 2001, what you would see is about a 1% increase each year, which, oddly enough, lines up pretty much with special ed. When you look at the federal counts for all special ed, tends to increase about 1% each year, give or take 2/10 of a percentage point. This tends to be a growth in our country. And our students and our quota was progressing just like that. After our reset in 2018, we started to see a growth piece there. Last year, drop off. I think that's an anomaly. We'll look for this year to make sure that's true. Later this year, we are going to look at the whole idea of who gets counted on quota. This will not affect next year's quota count, but we need to have a discussion. We'll start this discussion with EPAC and ESAC, and then we will open it up to other people. We received, I asked, because I ask a lot of questions of the Department of Ed, and one of those questions this year was, how come the quota, how we require kids or how we identify kids for quota and IDEA, why don't those two definitions align? And Department of Ed came back and said, well, that's your fault. And I'm like, well, explain. And the person who explained it best was Mike Hudson, who did his digging and found a little piece of paper from a congressional hearing back in early 50s. And basically, at that time, APH, when Leanne did this wonderful job of presenting the history of APH, you remember when we made that shift from you get a set amount of dollars every year to now we're going to give you money per pupil? Well, one of the questions they asked at that time is, how will you determine who gets money and who doesn't? And they asked the APH representative that is, how are you going to determine who gets money? And it was an off-the-cuff question by a senator. And he says, well, how about if we just do what Social Security does for adults? And they're like, good enough. And that's how we decided on 2,200 and less than 10 degree field. That was it. Department of Ed said, that's on you. So the question we're going to start unpacking this year is, all of us have those low vision kids on our caseload, 2070. We have those kids who have some level of CVI, maybe enough to get an acuity, but not quite enough for them to be really effective. And we know the frustration, I've heard it for years. I had it when I was in the field, is we never get to count those kids. Okay, we want to have a conversation. We want to start to unpack that. Should we be counting low vision kids? Should they be part of this quota count number? And it's not a simple yes or no. We really need to open this, because this could create a Pandora's box. But we need to open that and look at that and see if that would be of a benefit to the quota or if that would be a harm to the quota. So I'm not wise enough to make that decision on my own. That's why I have all of you. So we will get into that this year, and we're going to have several discussions. We want to gather a lot of feedback. We want to take a look at that. And whatever decision we come up with will not impact this year's quota. If we arrive at a decision, we will have that decision done by spring of this year so that it would go into play in the 2023 census. So not 2022, but 2023. So be thinking about that if you've got an idea. But let's move on. I'm taking up too much time here. All right, APH Products. Jane Thompson did a wonderful job yesterday talking about what went on with tests and textbooks. Another weird year. Braille textbook numbers are down. Large print textbook numbers are down. However, when you look at page count, pretty equal. So we had less books, but we did so many math and science books, it was almost a wash. Good news, TGIL, that's Tactile Graphics Image Library, registered users is up, and 98 people from 98 countries are accessing those graphics, which is fantastic. Thank you all. If you've been a part of providing those graphics to us, thank you for doing that, because that's some APH work. That's a lot of input from all of you. Assets are now over 2,000. In our test department this year, we had a big year in test departments this year, $1.9 million. We did over 1,118 unique tests, which surprised me because I'm going, who got tested last year? You know, so many states waived the test, but it did happen. In our studio department and our NLS contract there, 143,000 minutes recorded. It was over 1,000 titles. Most excitedly, we have a new pilot program going with DCMP, and I'm going to blow this, Descriptive Captioning Media Project, which is a branch of the federal government as well. If you haven't checked them out for an educational resource, this is a company that makes sure that all education, I won't say all, but a good chunk of educational materials that are out there have descriptive audio and captions built into it. So they do all that afterward. One thing they didn't have was narrators. So Greg Stilson and Maggie Davis, Greg Stilson, who runs Innovative Products or not Innovative Products, but Global Strategies. Maggie Davis, who runs the studio, got together, reached out to them and said, you've got a need, we got a way to fill that need. How about we partner? And so far we've had some great success there. So we're excited about that partnership going forward. Next slide. Or products, lots of products. Here we go, 35 new catalog items. Verga Visual Efficiency Program is out. Update to the LED mini light box. That's one we have a hard time keeping on the shelf. Juno came out, accessible code and go mouse, health ed tactile graphics to go with the health ed curriculum. RC Snap Rover Access Kit and APH Press recently released Babies with CVI. It has a much longer title than that, but I abbreviated it because, hey, PowerPoint. Few more things that happen. Some things that are in development. Greg Stilson's going to talk about the dynamic tactile device. We are so excited about it. We're partnering with HumanWare to make this happen. We did a lot of work on graffiti a few years ago, had some success with that. One of our frustrations is you could do great graphics that moved. You had dynamic, but you couldn't do Braille. We're envisioning this device that is going to do both Braille and graphics, which in essence means that you would be able to download a textbook that had graphics and you would have full text and graphics on this thing. And we are probably about a year and a half away from the prototype. And then we're going to get into the field testing, and then we're going to figure out a way to get it in the hands of everybody because it'll be expensive, but it'll be life-changing. So we got to figure that out. Manus and Chameleon have done incredibly well. We've got upgrades. One-hand mode was developed this year. Languages were put in there. And text-to-speech is coming here in October. It's already October, so maybe it's out already, but that's happening here pretty quickly. And also, as mentioned yesterday by Greg, years ago, working with HumanWare, they brought us a great product, which was the Mac Connect. Well, we've had that now for 6 years. It's time for the refresh. And so we have put out an RFP on the next smart tablet magnifier. So we don't know who we'll be partnering with yet, but we're excited about getting that initiative going. Let's go on some more. Services, Connect Center. Last year was the launch of the brand new Connect Center. This year, some of the big things happening at the Connect Center. Family Connects is partnering with Chicago Lighthouse to order family support groups. VisionAware have been doing this ongoing diabetes and blindness webinar series. It's just one of the things they've been doing. And just recently in Career Connect, they launched the Transition Hub. And if you haven't seen that yet, and I remember that when I was on your side of the fence, what do you do with kids during transition? That's one of those big things, transition. Here is a huge collection of resources and strategies for helping with transition, students in transitions, adults in transition. So check that out. Other services, resource services, busy year for them. First of all, a redesign of the Louis. We are just months away from that thing getting launched. 450 new APH titles, 4,100 new holdings, 45,500 unique users to Louis this past year, representing over 130,000 views. We now have 600 Braille on-demand files that we put in there. Good news, again, the NIMAC agreement renewed. That's now we are starting this, we've had 3 5-year cycles. We're on our 4th, 5th-year cycle. There are currently 67,000 files in the NIMAC. So the team's been very busy there. On to the next slide. More services outreach. Oh my gosh, we are excited. Regional specialists. Of course, we have Jeff in the Southeast and Leslie in the Northwest, and we've hired somebody in North Central. They haven't told me who yet. So, but we are slowly getting there. Our goal is to add 1 or 2 each year, and our goal is eventually to have a regional specialist in every part of the country. That regional specialist doesn't mean that they know everything any more than any of you know, but this is your APH representative, or when you say, hey, I would like someone to come in here and do a training on APH product, or someone to help us come in and do a training on how to better access APH services or whatever, or show up at our event. These are the people that are going to be the right-hand extension of APH to you and your program. So we're excited about that. Hive, we just had our 1-year anniversary. Amy and the team, 24 courses, 1,248 participants, 1,943 enrollments. We had people from 49 states, 3 territories, and 23 countries take advantage of those courses. The team just knocked it out of the park. Just amazing. A little more, Access Academy, 2nd year of Access Academy. 123 courses happened this year, folks. And that's just 9 months. That's not counting September, October. That's fiscal. That wasn't fiscal year. That's calendar year so far. Over 15,000 participants in those courses. We hit 50 different countries. We got something good going on. And when I say we, I'm talking the royal we, not just APH, because so many of these courses are being built by people from your teams. And we rely on the field to help us provide the content and be those trainers and experts and subject matter people to make this happen, because we are, when you see 50 countries, I'm excited about the numbers, but I'm excited about the countries, because this is what we talk about is there is a global need for good education for kids everywhere, everywhere. And it's not saying we have it all together in the US and our programs, but we have a lot to offer. And conversely, I would love to see it when we start having participants who are providing courses from England or Taiwan or another place about some of the amazing things that they're doing in their country, just kind of creating this rich cross-culturalization of approaches to students with visual impairments. So we're excited about that. Next slide. The road ahead. Okay, so I have a picture again. We're back on the Interstate 5. This is actually an arterial of Interstate 5 as you split off of I-5 and you're headed towards, you got the mountains in the background. I think this is probably Universal City or another part of town. Anyhow, it's busy. And everyone goes to LA for one reason, and that is to see the traffic. So what you have is a picture here of 6 lanes in both directions, bumper to bumper. Welcome to LA. That's not a knock on LA. That's just saying they've got something going. Everybody wants to be there. So, so when you go there, you go to experience the traffic. But that's the not so good. That's the not so good about traveling, the road trip, getting back to our idea of a proverbial road trip. What's our not so good this year? Supply chain issues. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. We have been hit with supply chain issues. Our team in production and cost accounting and our ordering team has constantly been looking for new materials to replace materials. We've had companies go out of business. Companies that we have contracts with suddenly halfway through their delivery are like, hey, we can't provide you with what you need anymore. Good luck. As a result of that, we've seen prices go through the roof. And so we were hoping to hold out we can't hold out. We've got to do some price increases. Our goal was to get through this past quota spend down before we made those price increases, but we will begin, you'll start to see some price increases this November. And those won't be in the catalog right away, but they will be up on the website. And our apologies for that. It seems like we're going in the wrong direction. But I think it's just like everywhere else, and we're not exempt from that. We've got shipping issues. We were really hit with the idea and became very aware of the failure of the current U.S. postal system in delivery of free matter for the blind. When we did a lot of research on this, and we found hundreds of thousands of dollars lost to the mail system. So we are trying to resolve that issue and looking at a way to fix that. We're also having conversations at highest levels, working with Congress, trying to figure out why free matter is suddenly not so important. And the other thing we're looking at is how we spend down on quota. I've been here 6 years now. I cannot even begin to tell you of the wackiness that happens the final week of quota spend down. This year, over $3 million were spent in 4 days. Okay, first of all, congratulations on spending all your money. Only $69,000 was left on the table. And actually, in some cases, we spent $2 million into next year's quota, which you can do. That's our safety net. You can always spend up to 50% of next year's money before you have it, because we want to make sure kids get what they need. But the reality is when you're dealing with supply chain issues and shipping issues, we can't be waiting till the last week of the fiscal year. So we are going to be having some conversations again with several of you. We'll start with EPAC and ESAC, and we will have a time for people to weigh in with their ideas, but more than likely we're going to be moving that date one way or the other, just to make life a little more realistic and work for our team here. I have people working till 10 at night during those last few weeks of September. I'm burning out people, and people are hard to come by. So I want to be kind to our people here. So be aware of that. Road ahead, but let's talk about some good. Getting closer. One of the things you know when you're almost there is you see the In-N-Out burger sign. They're all over Southern California. And is it more hype than burger? Perhaps. I like it. It's a good burger, but it's anticipation of you've made it to the promised land, the In-N-Out burger. So looking forward. This is our looking forward. We have the Lewis launch coming. That's exciting. It's really exciting, that the new tool that's being developed there. For those of you who aren't aware, we are in the process of doing a brand new museum. It's going to be big. It's going to be amazing. We've got a whole museum committee. Mike Hudson's going to be reaching out to people in the field. We're developing committees to get input as to what should be in that museum. How should that material be presented? What is the message and what is the feel that we want to get in that museum? Same time, we are going through a building remodel plans. And when all this is done, we'll share the designs with you. We're still waiting to go through architectural review. But this is going to be a $25 to $28 million project at APH. We're breaking ground next September. All of this money is being funded with no federal funds whatsoever. We can't use federal funds for any of this. So we are doing this through the raising of funds as well as pulling from our endowment to make this happen. And for those who have been in the building, we love this place, but it's old and it needs a refresh. Appropriation increases. Right now, the president has recommended a $3 million increase. The House has recommended a $3 million increase. The Senate, this is just the way the Senate works. We haven't heard from the Senate yet. We probably should know something about how the Senate is leaning towards October. Paul Schrader and his team have been working those back channels, trying to make sure that the language that goes into this increase gives APH the freedom we need, as well as gives us at least what the president and the House have recommended, and perhaps even more than was put on the table. And the last thing I'm going to mention there is we are looking to have actual honest to goodness, face-to-face handshakes and elbow bumps and hugs for those who feel so daring. Conferences, a chance to see people, to sit down, to share a cup of coffee or beverage of your choice, and just talk and commune and breathe the same air together. We are so hopeful. Things are looking good. Probably not till January. So the hope of 22 is is this idea is we're going to get there, but I want to remind you that arriving is not the goal. And I have a picture here. This is a picture of outside main gate of Disneyland, and the gates are locked. And this is what you would see if you came to Disneyland before they open. Our goal is just not to get there. To coin a phrase, Indiana School for the Blind this year has chosen the motto, all in this year. Jim shared that with me in a talk the other day. And the idea behind that is it's not enough to be. You have to be all in. You have to commit. And so our final picture there, throw that up. You see this wonderful elderly lady having the time of her life. She's got a pair of mouse ears on. It's the birthday mouse ears. So the beanie part is brightly colored with it says happy birthday on there. And it's got kind of the Sorcerer's Apprentice crown on there with red and colorful ears. And she's got I think it's the first time badge. And she's got the It's My Birthday badge on there, and just happy. It's that idea of once we get in those gates, we need to enjoy ourselves and throw ourselves all into it. So 2022 is here. APH is throwing ourselves all in. I hope that you are at a spot emotionally, even though you're tired. Another good thought I'll leave you with this is one of our superintendents said, I'm not allowing our staff to talk about the stressors of last year. We unpacked all that last year. This year, we're saying, we're in it. We're going forward. We're moving forward. It's all about the job that's ahead of us, those kids, and let's just give it our all. So I hope your year is successful. I hope you have a year of renewed life and promise. We're excited. We're excited at APH. We're excited for you. And, I can't wait again, though. Next year, fingers crossed, we'll have you all back here. So thank you all.